So I just saw Shang-Chi yesterday, and while I am planning on making a video or two in my normal format on it, I thought it might be fun to do a sort of quick take mini review on it, talking about what I thought worked best in the film, what maybe didn't work quite so well, some general thoughts, and maybe some speculation and theories towards the end. Before we get going, I should note that this is going to be mainly spoiler-free until the end, talking about themes and characters and stuff, but I will throw up a warning before we get into anything really heavy. But let's start by saying that, come on, this film's great, isn't it? It's fantastic. I mean, I don't know if it'd crack my, say, top 3 personally, which is like Winter Soldier, Endgame, and Infinity War, but it's not far behind. Definitely top 10, and I can definitely see this being some people's favourite Marvel film, and for good reason. The action in particular is astonishing. The choreography is by far the best we've ever seen in the MCU. I mean, I love Winter Soldier's action, but it doesn't compare. Shang-Chi has so many long, imaginatively shot fight scenes, and there's no distracting cuts or anything. You can see what's going on, and it's a testament to the actors, the stunt team, the directors, everyone involved, that they come together so beautifully. This does fall away a little bit in the third act, and as we get more CG heavy in the action sequences. But even then, while I think the more grounded action stuff worked better for me personally, you can still follow what's going on, and it's visceral. It feels real, more so than some other Marvel Act 3 CGI battles like Black Panther or even some of the Avengers films. That being said, it does very much feel like a film of two halves. They fit together well, and you'll know what I mean if you've seen it, but I definitely think some people are going to come away preferring different parts of the film to other people. But that's fine, that's to be expected with a film as unique as Shang-Chi is, and it is a very unique film, both in the fact that Hollywood's giving so much focus to a culture so different to its own, and also from the other MCU projects, especially the sense of comedy this film has feels unique in the world of Marvel. It's not just quip MCU humor, it has its own sense of humor, and crucially, this humor doesn't come at the expense of dramatic moments like so many other MCU films. And another thing this film has comedically, apart from the other MCU films, is Awkwafina. She plays Katie, Shang-Chi's best friend and sidekick to an extent. It's a warm performance with a lot of laugh-out-loud moments. But her character does bring us to one area of the film that I didn't think held up quite so well. With a few characters, Katie in particular, I felt some of the motivations weren't massively clear. She joins up on Shang-Chi for this big adventure, and it's never really made clear why she's coming along, why Shang-Chi's bringing her along, beyond the fact that they're friends. Don't get me wrong, I'm glad that she's there, she's a hoot, but as they're getting into these more and more fantastical situations, I think it's a little strange, narratively speaking, that no one challenges what she's doing there. And there's a similar issue to a lesser degree, in my opinion, with the central character, Shang-Chi himself. He has something of a personality, and it's a really good performance by Simu Liu, but until about halfway through the film, when certain aspects of the plot come into play, it's not entirely clear what his motivation is, what's driving him to make these choices and do these things. Now, to a degree, this is nitpicking. This is a minor issue that I think maybe one more script rewrite would have caught and polished up fully, and it doesn't really detract much from the rest of the film, which again is great, and you wouldn't want too much to change because these two characters, Katie and Shang-Chi, work together in a great way, and they're at the heart of the film's biggest theme, which is family. You might think from the trailers that they'd be set up in a sort of will they, won't they dynamic, but the film sidesteps this expectation quite cleverly, I think, in service of some of these questions the film is asking about family. What makes a family? What breaks a family? What do you owe to your family? What do your family owe to you? And ultimately, where is the point of no return? In this way, and a few others actually, the film reminded me quite strongly of Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. For one, it's got a similar warmth, but for the others, we'll have to get into spoiler territory, so here's the warning.
Spoilers ahead! Spoiler warning!
So the father-son dynamic in Shang-Chi reminded me quite a lot of the one we see between Peter and Ego in Guardians 2, and by itself that's not much, you know, these MCU films, they love a bit of daddy issues, but the more I started thinking about it, the more similarities came to me, and I don't just mean that Michelle Yeoh is in both films. In both films, the main character is a son estranged from his father, and he meets family he didn't know he had in this utopian, beautiful paradise. And in both of these worlds, there's a certain power that our main character gains access to that's bestowed by the ruler or protector of the realm. In Shang-Chi, it's the dragon, and in Guardians, it's Ego himself. But ultimately, the power that emerges from this world is a threat to not just this world and our characters, but Earth as well. And in both cases, this threat is destroyed, not by the powers granted by this place, but by the power of family. And that's not to say that the family stuff underpinning this doesn't work, it's just that it feels oddly familiar. And in a similar vein, I'm not a massive fan of the moment that Shang-Chi's sister gets to end the film. It feels like a weird sort of girl boss Yas Queen moment, which, hey, great, but not when you're running an international assassin squad. But I wanted to end with a bit of speculation, because I think I've got an answer for the mystery this film leaves us with, that is the origin of the Ten Rings. Because the quality that the investigation in the film's post-credit scene seems to stress the most is the age of these rings. They're ancient, so much older than Wenwu. And if we take age to be the essential quality, looking at the films we have coming up, the obvious link seems to be to Eternals. After all, we're finally getting Celestials in that film, and their whole thing is how old they are and how they set up so many things on Earth and beyond in the universe and then left, or disappeared. Maybe the signal that the rings seem to have sent have gone to the Celestials, or maybe the Eternals, or maybe even the Deviants. Either way, I think we'll probably get the next piece of the Ten Rings puzzle in the Eternals. And I think there's a hint to that in Shang-Chi. We find out at the start of the film that legends say Wenwu took the rings from a crater or an ancient tomb. Now, a crater would seemingly fit the comic lore of the Ten Rings the best, because in the comics they're alien technology. But I think this might be a red herring, and that Wenwu may have found these in an ancient tomb, and maybe we'll find out more about this tomb in the Eternals. But that about wraps this up. As I mentioned earlier, I have another video in the works about Shang-Chi, so stick around if you want to see that. But let me know below what you thought of the film. Did you like it as much as I did? Did you have similar issues? Other issues? I'd love to hear. And as always, thanks for watching. See you next time.